I'm playing 100 Days of Project Castaway. I've always liked the idea of being stranded on an island alone, and that's basically what this game is. While surviving, I'll have to fight off dangerous creatures, build my own home, and there's even some farming for me to do. Keep in mind, this game is in early access, so it is gonna get better and better. With all that out the way, the game begins with... We begin flying in a plane, and surprisingly there's actually a story. We're looking for our uncle who went missing. I don't know why he's in the middle of the ocean, but whatever, you know, details aside, whatever. Unfortunately, we lose control of our plane and horrifically crash. Miraculously, we survive and we swim to the surface. Right in front of us was an island. Dazed from the crash, we slowly swim towards it. Eventually, we make it to land and our story begins. Since I have no idea what to do, I decide to follow the quest markers at the top of the screen. I pick up a small stick and then start investigating the island. What's this? Manure? It's just shit on the beach? Who's shitting on the beach? After stopping to appreciate this nice view for a second, I pick up a stone and smash it to make stone shards. I combine the shards with my small stick and some rope that I just conveniently had to make a stone axe. I test out my new axe on this branch lying on the beach. And yes sir, this thing works. I do some more exploring and walking around the beach, then take a more in-depth look at my crafting book. And I gotta be honest, I'm excited. It looks like there's some cool things to craft. I'm looking forward to it. I take out a hornet that was trying to get me, then start cutting down this palm tree. And it doesn't take long before it falls down. Timber! Nice. I pick up a coconut that fell from the tree, and for some reason my health is really low, so I eat the coconut and put on a bandage. While doing some more exploring, I get stopped by this Hawaiian blueberry plant. After cutting it down, I pick up some blueberries. I decide to climb this big red mysterious staircase, at the top of which there's a massive radio tower and a sticky note. I decide to climb the tower because it seems like the right thing to do. When I get to the top, it's a nice view and all, but I don't find anything. I make my way back down the tower and I almost die. Ouch! 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 But it's okay. I check out this locked box, but it needs a code that I don't have. I open my journal and I check out the sticky note that I picked up earlier. Let me summarize it so you don't have to read it. There's this guy named Danny, and he doesn't like his job, and he's just complaining about it. He really doesn't like it. I need to fix this radio tower for some reason. Apparently the manual on how to fix it is at the bottom of the ocean in a submarine. And I also need a key that he has on his dead body. And I need to find a bunch of random notes which have the code to the lockbox. I mean, at least we have things to do, but damn it, Danny, this is wildly inconvenient. I walk back down the big staircase, find this chili plant in the forest, kill another hornet, and break down this broken cabinet I found. At this point, it was getting cold, late, and rainy, so I decided to make my own shelter. I used my hammer to place the foundation. I picked up the 2 logs from the tree I cut down earlier and added them to the foundation. I cut down a bunch more trees and delivered all the logs. I then set the blueprint down for some walls. And got right back into cutting trees to collect some more logs. Very exciting stuff. After I added a few logs to the build, I placed the blueprint for a bed. The bed needs these palm fronds, which also fall from trees, and I quickly put it together. Yay, we got a bed. I continue cutting trees and add a few more logs to my house until my stone axe unfortunately breaks. Bruh. I try to make a new one, but I don't have any rope. I had to figure out how to get some, but it was getting late, so I went to bed. I woke up at the morning of day 2 at a crisp 6:30 a.m. And I must say, it is a beautiful morning. Since I don't have my axe, I need to figure out how to get some rope so I can make a new one. After a bunch of aimless running around on the beach and picking up random items, I decide to make myself a stone knife. The knife isn't as good as the axe, but I can still use it to gather certain things. While doing some more exploring, I find a surfboard. Ooh, surf's up, baby. I placed the surfboard on my house as a decoration, and I must say, it looks pretty good. I tested my stone knife out on a tree, but it was not working. I did figure out I need to make this spinning wheel so I could turn yucca leaves into rope. I found a piece of sheet metal on the beach, placed the blueprint for the spinning wheel, then added materials until it was made. I then quickly found and harvested a little yucca plant, then finally turned the yucca leaves into rope. Yeah, finally we have rope! I made myself a new axe and got back to cutting trees so I could finish my house. After a bunch of cutting said trees, the walls to my house were finished just before 3 p.m. I then placed the blueprint down for a roof so I wouldn't get rained on, And you guessed it, went back to cutting more trees. I hope you like cutting trees because, spoiler alert, there's a lot of cutting trees in this video. It didn't take long before my house was complete. Home sweet home. I decided I wanted a metal barrel stove next, and I placed the blueprint outside. I quickly found a bunch of metal sheets just lying on the beach, and I ran them home. I added a couple to the blueprint and chucked the rest on the ground. I then found a banana tree, which I cut down to get some bananas, and ran along the beach until I found some metal barrels. I took it back to the blueprint, and it was now complete. I had my own stove. I placed my bananas on the stove, grilled banana, and I placed the blueprint for a drop box in my house. Some more trees were cut down, and I added the logs to the drop box. I cut down the small tree to get some large sticks, and adding them to the drop box finished it off. I put away some things I feel like I didn't need from my inventory, and then I turned it in for the night. The start of day 3 was another nice morning. I didn't really have any plans for the day, but I knew I wanted to be productive. The first task of the day was gather materials for this water catcher. While making some rope, I got ambushed by a stupid lizard. Oh my god. Scared the shit out of me, dog. And I had to get revenge by brutally killing it. I had to. There was no choice. I just had to do it. After my sweet, sweet revenge, I picked up some banana leaves from the banana tree I cut down earlier, and I added them to the water catcher. Soon I saw a turtle on the beach, and I needed its shell for the water catcher. We came to a mutual agreement, and the turtle let me borrow his shell, and I added it to my construction. I cut down some small trees for some large sticks, and a banana tree for some more banana leaves, and finished off the water catcher. Hooray, we're gonna live! I put some meat on the grill, and took off the bananas. I decided to place some crop plots and had a weird glitch happen to me. I think my man has too many arms. And then I placed a couple more crop plots. I placed a compost bin as well and whipped out my axe. Time to cut more trees. It didn't take incredibly long to finish everything, and I soon started experimenting with farming. Aw, man. Oh. Okay, nice. I placed the blueprint for a crab trap, then went off to get some materials. While running around the beach looking for sticks to finish the trap, I found this broken fan and I took it apart for some parts. I also found the plane that I crash landed in a couple days ago. I just gotta say, this thing has some very strange physics. I took some sheet metal back to my house, finished off my crab trap, and turned on the stove to cook up some meat. I placed the blueprint for a bird trap, quickly built that up too, and then went to bed. On day 4, I woke up to some rain. Not a great start to the day, to be honest. Despite this, the game looks really good when it's raining. I placed the blueprint down for some large crop plots and started hitting some trees. It didn't take long before I put the large crop plots together, and soon I planted some bananas. The chili I planted yesterday was growing quite well too. Damn, she's coming along. I decided to put a scarecrow by my crops. I'm pretty sure these don't do anything practical, but, you know, aesthetics, baby. When the scarecrow was finished, I started building a tanning rack. It didn't take long for me to gather up the materials and put it together. I chucked some lizard skin on it to slowly make some leather. I put away some shit clogging up my backpack, and while exploring, I soon found another surfboard. Ooh, surf's up again, baby. Let's go for a ride. Yeah! While taking the surfboard back to my base, I decided to check out the radio tower again. I still had a quest marker pointing towards it, and I wanted to see what it was all about. I looked all around at the top of the cliff, but couldn't find anything, so I climbed the tower. At the top of the aforementioned tower, I may have missed the collectible yet again, but can you blame me? This shit is tiny. On my way down the tower, I accidentally hurt myself again. Ouch! What is going on? Why did that happen? What? I really did think I was going to die here, but I did manage to safely descend the tower. Oh, get me off this thing. I picked back up the surfboard and I put it on my house. I rearranged the other surfboard and damn, you know a chill dude lives in that house. I went to check on my chili plant and, oh man, it died. But you know what? It is okay. I chucked a bunch of rotten food I had into the compost, then I started building a furnace. As I went to gather some materials for the furnace, I noticed that a bird got caught by my trap. I gathered the bird, reset the trap, then went looking for some stones. While searching, I accidentally fell off a cliff. Ouch! And by coincidence, I found an ancient shield. The shield looked rare, so I wanted to store it in my house, but even my house was trying to kill me. What? Eventually, I did find some stones, I finished the furnace, and I went to bed. Sun's out, buns out, baby. It's day 5 and a good day. I chucked a bunch of things from my overcrowded inventory into this overcrowded box, then started just chucking everything outside on the sand because I didn't have any space to put anything. I'm disorganized, okay? I made myself a stone pickaxe and immediately used it on this granite ore that was nearby. With this, I could make the next level of tools. I dropped off all the ore I collected by my house so my inventory was nice and neat. Then I broke my stone axe hitting a tree. I quickly made myself a granite axe, and I gotta be honest, the difference is not that big. I really don't think this was worth the effort to get. Anyway, I placed the blueprint for a raft. I wanted to start exploring the other islands. I went searching for some tires as I needed them to build my raft, and while searching I ended up finding the skeleton. Oh no! What happened? Oh no. Unfortunately, you can only pick up tires one at a time, so I slowly moved tires one by one. I added my 4th wheel to the raft, but was struggling to find more. So I brought a barrel back to my house instead. I did end up finding a 5th tire, but I think this was the last tire on my entire island. After adding it to my raft, I cut down some trees so I could get more logs. I added the logs to the raft, and all I needed now was one more tire. I placed the plan for a sail and accidentally placed 4 more on top of it, but I didn't know how to remove it, so I just rolled with it. Well, that is a problem for future Luca to figure out. I gathered up some more large sticks, added them to the raft, and decided to finish the raft tomorrow. It is bedtime. The morning of day 6 was a beauty, and I wanted to finish my raft. I chopped down a bunch of small trees with my knife and added all the sticks to my build. While searching for more sticks, I ended up finding a mattress that was underwater, and when I disassembled it, I got a bunch of random items. Hooray, I suppose. I also found another surfboard, alright. I added it to my house, and I knew I was going to be collecting these from now on. I made a wooden bow, just because I could, I suppose, and I placed the blueprint for a small stick holder. I collected some more large sticks, and pretty soon all 5 sails stacked on top of each other were done. I tested out the sails and it's a bit janky, but it works well enough. While doing some more exploring of the island, I found this submerged car. I figured it might have the last tire I needed for the raft, so I started breaking it down. Unfortunately, when it did break, there were no tires, but all the parts did start raining from the sky. What? What's happening? I broke down a fridge, which also rained parts down from the sky. Then I brought this barrel back to my base. I finished off the small stick holder, then chucked some resources from my full inventory onto the ground. I put down the plan for a weapon rack, broke down a log to make some large sticks, and put it together. I put my bow on display as it was just sitting on the ground, and then I made a tool rack as well. I quickly got the resources for that too, and put it together. I thought a campfire would look nice, so I put down the blueprint, and I decided to put a rudder on the boat so I could, steer it. I cut some wood and quickly put the rudder together. Since I couldn't finish the last piece of the raft, I decided to remove it. Whoa! Whoa! That was the most eventful thing to happen all day. I placed the plan for some more raft pieces that didn't require tires, added a few materials to it, and then called it a night. Today was day 7 and it was looking like another good day. The first thing I did today was start a fire. I was dying of cold, so I needed to warm up. I found the sign on the beach and I placed it on my house as decor. I picked up some logs that I'd previously cut down and I finally finished my raft. I picked up my bow, crafted myself a few arrows, and then set off on my raft. Honestly, I was a bit nervous here, but I was happy to do some exploring. I was going towards this little island here, and it was taking a long time. I was getting a bit bored. Yo ho ho and a bottle of rum. A pirate's life is what I love. Yo ho ho and the sea is mine. My life is going just fine. Damn it, why is this taking so long? After about 5 minutes, I finally made it and stepped on new land. Pretty much immediately, I found this pirate flag. The song was right, I am a pirate. I started moving resources onto my boat so I could take them home. I also broke open this barrel which contained another pirate flag and some rope. I continued dropping off resources and decided to make a small stick holder for the boat. I quickly put it together, then put down the blueprint for a flag, but I soon realized I accidentally placed it on the shore rather than the boat. Oh, fuck. Oh, man. I destroyed it because I guess it wasn't meant to be. It was getting quite late, so I hopped on my raft and started heading back home. It took 5 minutes of real life time to get back home, and I got to bed just before 5 a.m. I woke up on the morning of day 8 at a crisp midday. Just like real life, man. This game's so realistic. I transferred all the loot from my raft to outside my base, and I did some practice with my bow. Damn, get wrecked, bro. I ran around the island picking up rocks and I added them to the campfire I started building ages ago, and I placed a plan for a flag which I quickly put together. Eventually, I did end up finishing off the campfire as well. I built a table and then I planned out some furniture around the place. I'm going for a homey vibe, you know, just a little homey vibe. I cut some wood to get some logs, put the furniture together, and then I tested out the seat. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, this is the stuff. I soon noticed that my banana trees were done. That was a big W. Then I decided to build this log rack so I could store logs outside my house. I did a bit of work on the log rack, but decided I wanted to fix my in-game sleep schedule, so I went to bed early. The morning of day 9 was looking like it was gonna be another fantastic day. The first thing I did was harvest some of these yucca plants as I needed to make some more rope. After I turned all the yucca leaves into rope, I made myself a new axe and got to chopping down some trees. I broke down the logs I just got so I could get some large sticks and finish off the log rack. I placed the plan for a large stick holder as well and immediately started turning logs into large sticks so I could put it together. I then started putting my extra coconuts on this table. I can see it now. I envisioned this table full of coconuts. After some more miscellaneous gathering and placing more coconuts on the table, I make myself a water pouch. I decided to add some more platforms to my raft. I don't really know why I wanted it to be bigger, but I guess bigger is better. I already had the tires and barrels, so it was just a matter of moving them from the beach to the raft. I did, however, have to cut some trees to get more logs. After a bit of walking back and forth, I eventually got enough logs to finish off the upgrade. I put down the plan for some shade on the raft and built that too, and it kind of makes the boat go crazy. I'm a fan. Whoa. Whoa! I then placed the plan for a large drop box, and I practically spent the entire evening gathering materials so I could build it. Once I did put it together, I went to bed. It was the morning of day 10 and the plan was to sail on my raft so I could explore a new island. I immediately did just that and we started moving. It is pretty annoying how slow it goes, but it is what it is. I hope I find like a jet ski at the island. That would be sick. Unrealistic hopes aside, I basically just sat there for 5 minutes while my boat slowly drifted across the ocean. Eventually, I did make it to the new island. I quickly found this old computer and I took it apart to pick up the parts. I put all the parts I picked up in the Dropbox on my boat. Spoiler alert, do not do this. Do not put loose items on your boat. Anyway, after some exploring, I found this rocking horse in the ocean. What? Oh my god, dude, this is better than a jet ski. Let's go. I found a surfboard as well. I broke an old TV for more parts, and then I dropped off the rocking horse to keep it safe. I decided to move my boat to the other side of the island so it was closer to all the loot. I dropped off a surfboard to the raft and some barrels, and only then did I realize everything I put in the box was gone. Hey, where did my loot go? I did put things in the boat, in the box. Where did they go, bruh? I did not learn from my mistake as I decided to put more things in the box. I continued along the beach and brought more things back to the boat and then decided to explore the forest with my bow. While exploring, I ended up finding a blueprint. It's pretty cool that you can find these and learn new things, but they're kinda hard to find. I did some more exploring in the forest, but I didn't really end up finding anything and soon found myself back on the beach. While bringing this tire back to my raft, I found these tea bags on the ground. A bit later on, it was getting kinda dark and while planning what to do, I got attacked by this scorpion. Luckily though, I'm a master with the bow and I took care of business. Whoa, where did he go? My arrow disintegrated him. Back at my boat, I realized my items disappeared yet again. Then I built myself a barrel stove so I could get warm. The sun was coming up by the time I put together a little bed, and I fell asleep under the stars. It was a sunny morning at the start of day 11, and I was still on the island. I explored a little bit more in the forest, but again, I didn't really find anything. I dropped off a load of sheet metal to my raft and then started sailing towards a different island. And after a few minutes of sailing, I arrived. Finally, a new island. What goodies await for me here? This island's pretty cool. It has a structure in the middle of a lake. Though, while exploring underwater at one point, I did get very scared. Oh! What was that? Oh my god! Swim! Get out of there! I did manage to escape with my life and some of my dignity, but not a good experience. While exploring the island, I find myself another blueprint, and I still wanted to explore the structure in the middle of the lake, but I was scared. I gotta be honest, fear won that day because I picked up a piece of sheet metal and started heading back to my main island. I got back to my house with my rocking horse at 4 AM, placed him down, and then went to bed. I woke up on day 12 at 10:30 in the morning, and my guy was still tired. I started taking the loot off my raft and stored it around my base. I also put up another surfboard on my house. Once I'd transferred everything from the raft, I built this shard container, picked up all these shards I had sitting on the beach, and put them away. At this point, outside of my house was a complete mess and I wanted to fix it. I took apart my tanning rack as later on I wanted to expand my house. I then put down the blueprint for a stone container and quickly put it together. I placed some more foundations as I wanted to expand my house, but it wasn't letting me place one for some reason. I ended up making the executive call to cut down both the banana trees and break down both the crop plots. I redid the blueprint for all the foundations and this was going to be extremely expensive. I spent the evening slowly cutting down trees and adding all the logs to my house. There were now no more trees in the little forest outside my house, and I had to run a lot further away to get logs. This was kind of annoying as it was only going to make building my house take longer. Brother, this is going to take ages. After adding some more logs, which I can now do from weirdly far away, I went to bed. The morning of day 13 was another nice one, but it was clear I still had a lot of cleaning to do. When I say I spent basically the entire day cutting down trees, I am not lying. All I was doing was running logs back to my house, adding them to the build, running back to the forest, cutting more trees, and repeating. I did this again and again until 3 PM when I finished the foundation for my house upgrade. I put some coconuts I've been collecting on the coconut table, then placed the plan for a staircase, broke a back wall on my house, and then went to cut some wood. I took the logs from the tree I cut down back to my house, built the staircase, and broke the other back wall. I then decided to put some fencing on the roof. Hear me out, a balcony, yeah! Oops, I didn't mean to pick this up. I picked up a bunch of palm fronds that were lying on the ground from all the trees I cut down, and I added them to the fence. After doing this a few times, I just needed to add some large sticks and the fences would be done. But it was getting late, so I went to bed. It was now day 14. My house was looking good, and it was a good day. I spent a good chunk of my morning collecting large sticks so I could finish off both of my fences. I thought it was a good idea to take a shortcut off the roof, but quickly learned that it is not. Ouch! I decided I wanted a little farm on the roof, so I placed a couple of large crop plots, a couple more fences, and another water collector. This was going to be really expensive, and the only thing I already had was these banana leaves for the water catcher. I needed another turtle shell for the water catcher, so I found a turtle and politely asked him, then went straight back to cutting down trees for some logs. I pretty much gathered materials all day, but I didn't even end up finishing everything. I finished both the crop plots and the water catcher, but the fences still weren't done. I placed a couple more walls on my house and put them together, stored my barrels and tires under the house, but besides that, nothing else got done, and I went to bed. I woke up on day 15 at 5 AM, and there was still a lot to do around the house. I planned out a few more walls for my house and spent a chunk of the morning cutting down trees so I could add more logs. While I was in the forest, I noticed the plane that I came here on was still by the shore. I spent a bit of time trying to push it onto the beach. Come on, you bastard. Get there. You can do it. And surprisingly, I actually succeeded. Pretty cool, huh? Soon, I finished the extra walls I was building. I pushed the plane closer to my house because I think it looks cool. Then I placed down the plans for some more storage in my house. As usual, I spent a chunk of the day in the forest collecting logs. I added some logs to one of the containers and I got hit with a glitch. No matter what I did, my character wouldn't move. Hello? Hello? Why can't I move, bro? What the... Uh-oh. I was trying everything. I could not get out. I even tried breaking the floor, but my hammer broke, and I didn't have enough resources to make another one. This is bad. This is bad. This is really bad. I was struggling to get out for ages. I could not figure this out. I even tried shooting an arrow straight up to see if it would come down and hit me and potentially move me a little bit, but it did not work. I ended up taking apart the storage I was making and throwing the logs on top of myself. Somehow, I guess this dislodged me or something, and I was set free. What the f... I replaced the storage container and went to bed after a day wasted. On the morning of day 16, I still had to finish my storage containers. So I spent the morning chopping trees and eventually I finished them. I added a bunch of coconuts to the coconut table, then started cleaning up my front yard. I tried to keep everything organized by putting my things in storage. I went back and forth between picking up things from my yard and dropping them off in boxes until everything was clean. I also chucked all the sheet metal I had under my house. I basically spent the rest of the day gathering. I made a big pile of palm fronds, collected some yucca leaves, got some blueberries, and collected some large sticks as well before going to bed. It was now the morning of day 17 and I had big plans. I wanted to explore a new island today. I hopped on my raft and after about 5 minutes of being completely bored out of my mind, the seas were stormy as I slowly sailed across the vast ocean, and all was quiet. Holy, this is rough. I made it to new land. Immediately, I started picking up new items and dropping them off on my boat. While exploring, I stumbled across this crashed plane, and I also found a journal page. It's pretty obvious I'm not the first guy who's been here. Apparently, this dude crashed his plane here in World War II. I still had exploring to do and didn't have time to sympathize with the guy. While running around, I noticed the scary-looking creature in the distance. That does not look good. On the beach, I found this bottled note. It was from this lady named Claire, but I didn't read it because I got things to do. I climbed up this cliff and found myself another sticky note, then went towards this mysterious tower I found. At the base of the tower, I picked up some national flags, and while climbing the tower, I found a blueprint. It was for some seasoning, and I'm never gonna use it, but it's cool, I suppose. At the top of the tower, though, I found something truly amazing. No. Wilson! Wilson! I've been needing a friend. There was also a snake bracelet, which was a bit less exciting, and a blueprint for shark repellent, which is extremely useful. I decided to take Wilson back to my boat, and on the way back, found another blueprint. I built a barrel stove on the way back, but I couldn't light it because it was raining. I put down Wilson next to my boat for when I was ready to leave. It did eventually stop raining, and I warmed myself up by the fire. While running around the beach, I found another note from the army dude. Then I found the blueprint for a plane seat. After this, I found a skeleton. No! What happened, buddy? I picked up a surfboard and took it back to my raft, then took Wilson with me as I started sailing. Wilson and I got back to my house at 6 a.m. and I went to bed. On day 18, I woke up at 1 p.m. because I went to bed so late the night before. I picked up a surfboard from my raft and added it to the collection by putting it on my house. I then emptied my backpack of all the loot that I gathered on the island. I chucked the bottled note under the stairs by some rope and put all the tea bags I found by the fire. I then placed another sign I found on my house and discovered this really weird mechanic where you can look at your arms. I have no idea why they put this in the game. Whoa. Wow. I finally read the sticky note I found on the island yesterday, at the very bottom of which was a number, part of the code for the lockbox by the radio tower. I built myself a little bench so I could stare longingly at the ocean, then cooked up some crab while I was warming myself up by the fire. After eating the crab, I called it for the night to try and fix my sleep schedule. It was raining on the morning of day 19 and kind of a gloomy day, perhaps foreshadowing what the day has in store. While exploring my island, I ended up stumbling across an ancient lantern. Ooh la la, what is this? I dropped off the ancient lantern to my house, then went out on my boat to do some exploring. While sailing around my island, I found this structure poking out of the water. I stopped my boat next to it and quickly realized it was a whole ass pirate ship. I completely forgot about sharks, and while swimming down to check it out, I got attacked. Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! Fuck shit! Shit! Go, 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 go! Oh no! Go, 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 go! Oh, I forgot about those damn sharks, dude! Screw you! I tried to sail away, but my boat got stuck on the pirate ship's mast. The only way to fix it was to push the boat by hand. Come on, we gotta do this quick! Oh no! Oh, I'm gonna die! This really was a bad situation, and I did not know what to do. The genius plan I came up with was to try and flip the boat using the shade. Oh shit! Unfortunately, this did not work out. Oh no! After I loaded back in, I figured maybe the pirate ship wasn't the place to go. I set sail towards the first island I went to instead. When I did eventually arrive on the island, I quickly found another sticky note. It had another number for the code on the lockbox. I found a blueprint for some seasoning, then decided to put together a little house. I spent a bit of time cutting down trees so I could get logs and put it together, and by midday it was done. I found another blueprint on the island, dropped off some sheet metal to my raft, and started sailing towards another new island I saw in the distance. It was quite late by the time I arrived, but fortunately I found an abandoned camp. There were some supplies here too. I quickly put together a bed and went to sleep. I woke up at the camp of this new island and figured I had some exploring to do. Before that though, I decided to pillage all the items that seemed useful. There was a surfboard here which I picked up and placed on my raft, then I started looking around. I found a bunch of logs on the beach that spelled out SOS, and right nearby I found the blueprint for a trident. I soon realized I wasn't alone on the island. Ooh, okay, stay away from him. Randomly, just on the floor of the forest, I found my second bottled note. It was kinda janky, but I managed to scale this cliff, and here I found another campsite, and presumably the people that made it. Damn, bro. Rest in peace. I found these gold arrows, and I found an artifact, a rare ring. This seemed important, so I wanted to take it back to my boat. Ouch! Ouch! I put the ring in my storage container and then went to do some more exploring. I picked up this gold knife by the couple and accidentally hurt myself again trying to get down. I went back to my raft and made 100% sure the ring was still there, but after picking up a sheet metal that was on the ground, it disappeared. What? Where did it go? I spent ages looking around under the raft, but wherever that thing went, it was long gone. I gave up and started sailing away. But while sailing, it magically reappeared in the box. Hooray! I was sailing towards an island, another one that I hadn't even been to before. It was quite late when I did eventually arrive, but I jumped off the raft and put together a little shelter. I made myself a bed as well, and a barrel stove so I could get warm by the fire. I decided I'd explore tomorrow and I went to bed. I woke up on the morning of day 21 on this new island and the fireplace was still going. Since the sun was out, I could do some exploring, and I quickly found this ancient vase. I dropped it off on my boat next to the ring. I then did some more exploring, but didn't really find anything besides this giant floating seaweed in the water, and I wanted to check it out. I went back to the raft to sail over to it, but the ring vanished yet again. No! Oh man! I looked under the boat again, but no luck. Regardless, I started sailing towards the patch of seaweed. The weather was bad by the time I pulled up next to it, and I was pretty scared to check it out. What am I looking at? Okay, that's enough. Get me out the water. I'm scared. There were a bunch of sharks in the water, and I decided it was probably best not to test my luck. The weather got better as I was sailing towards the big island. It was pretty late by the time I arrived, so I built myself a little shelter, put together a bed, and turned it in for the night. The morning of day 22 was a sunny one, and I was on this island. I didn't really want to be here though, so I ran to my raft and started sailing home. As usual, it took a long time, but by midday, I made it back. I put the ancient vase next to Wilson and the shield, put the metal sheets under the house, and added the surfboard to the collection. I wanted to start a fire to get warm, but it was slightly raining. After waiting literally 20 seconds, I tried again, and it worked. I dropped off all the beautiful loot that I gathered on my long expedition, added a bunch of coconuts to the ever-expanding coconut table, and noticed something strange happening to my boat. What is going on? I put my second bottled note next to the first, then went outside to collect this coca. This is one of the key ingredients I needed for the shark repellent. While outside, I gathered a bunch of potatoes as well, chucked them all in a pile, had a drink of water, and then went to bed. Day 23 started off rainy. You know, more foreshadowing. I picked up a bunch of coca and chili I had and made some shark repellent. I sailed out to the pirate ship again, put on the shark repellent, and dived down to check it out. The foreshadowing was right because I drowned. What? I didn't know you just died. What the? I loaded the game back up and tried yet again. I swam all the way down to the ship and started breaking into this room. Unfortunately, there wasn't anything inside. What a waste of time. I took my frustration out on this stupid shark. Damn, shame! This shark repellent's really strong. There was another part of the ship I was trying to break into with a spoon, but my shark repellent was running out, so I decided not to take my chances. I sailed away on my boat, and I'd have to come back to check this out on another day. I parked up on the side of the island where all the trees were, set down the blueprint for a log rack and a large stick holder, then got to chopping trees. Eventually, I finished the log rack and large stick holder and got right back to cutting trees so I could fill them up. Eventually, it was full and I sailed back around the island back to my house, transferred all the logs, and went to bed. Day 24 was a nice day, and I had big plans to do some work on my house. I placed down the plan for a bunch of walls so my base wasn't so breezy. Then I added all the logs I collected yesterday, but it still wasn't enough. I sailed around to the part of the island where all the trees were, parked up on the beach, then got straight back to cutting trees. A few hours later, my first log rack was full, so I decided to make another one. I took apart some logs to get the large sticks and put it together. I spent even more time cutting trees so I could fill up the second log rack as well. When it was full, I sailed back around the island and used the logs to finish all the walls. I placed the plan for a ceiling as well, but I didn't have the logs to finish it. Instead, I planned out a bunch more walls for a potential second floor. I didn't feel like cutting trees in the night, so I went to bed. I woke up on day 25 and I said good morning to Wilson. "What's up, brother?" I wanted to expand my boat, but didn't have any logs. I took my boat back out to the forest section of the island. I was planning on cutting down a lot of trees today. I quickly finished off my boat upgrade and started cutting trees. Yeah, I gotta be honest, today was not a very exciting day. I was cutting trees pretty much the entirety of it. By 1 PM, I filled up both log racks and decided to build 2 more. I turned a bunch of logs into large sticks so I could put them both together and went straight back to cutting trees to get logs so I could fill them up. It was pretty dark by the time I eventually did fill them up, and I sailed back to my house. I added all the logs I collected throughout the entire day to my house, but it still wasn't enough. It was getting late, so I went to bed. Day 26 was pretty much exactly the same as day 25. I took my boat out to the forest part of the island, parked it on the beach, and then cut trees. By 1 PM, I'd cut down every tree on the island. I put the last few logs on my boat and then sailed back towards my house. I had enough logs to finish my house upgrade, and I put the rest in storage. I decided to make the second floor of my house a cool bedroom, and I placed the blueprint for a bed. I had to make some more rope to have enough materials to build it. Since there was still no roof upstairs, I decided to go to sleep in my original bed. I was now on day 27, and it was a sunny morning. It was going to be a nice day. I crafted myself a pickaxe and mined the silver ore node I found. I continued mining until my pickaxe broke. I put some of the silver ore I just gathered into the furnace and I turned it on. I added to the coconut table and put my extra shards in the shard container. The furnace didn't actually smelt anything because it started raining practically immediately, so I just had to wait for it to stop. I made myself another pickaxe and this time mined some copper ore and then some tin ore. Afterwards, it stopped raining and I reset the furnace. Then I built a new shard container. I filled it up with shards and finally the furnace was done. I put some tin shards in the furnace this time, and while it was smelting, I crafted myself a couple of silver axes. I put them on my tool rack and then checked on the furnace, which had finished smelting these impure ingots. The description of which reads, "A failed ingot, useless for crafting." I tried again, turned on the furnace, and again it did not work. Oh man. I tried again, this time putting the tin and copper shards on top of each other, and to my surprise, it worked. I'd made myself a bronze ingot. I cut down a banana tree for its bananas, and then planted them on my balcony. I wanted to figure out how the fertilizer worked, and I tried using this fertilizer sack, but nothing was really working. I did eventually figure out you have to hit the fertilizer with a spade. I put some in one of the banana trees, and at half the time it was going to take to grow. It was only 9 PM, but I decided to go to bed early. I woke up on the morning of day 28 and I wanted more logs. Since there were none left on my island, I had to sail to another just to get them. I went to the island with the rock on it. Yeah, I really need to name these islands, so I am hereby referring to this island as Rock Island. While here, I'd cut down trees. A lot of trees. Practically all the trees. And I stored them on my boat. I cut down a bunch of yucca plants while I was here too, and then after pillaging the island of basically all natural resources, I left. It was dark and raining by the time I got back, and I set the plan for a roof for my second floor. I started transferring all the logs to my upgrade, but I didn't quite have enough. At this point it was pretty late, so I went to bed. It was now the morning of day 29. My roof was almost done, but not quite. My inventory was full of coconuts from my expedition to the Rock Island, so I added them to the coconut table. Since I still needed more logs, I decided to take the boat out again. This time I was headed to what I'm now referring to as Lighthouse Island. This is the island I found Wilson by the lighthouse. After the extremely long boat ride over, I eventually made it to shore. I did a little bit of exploring, and by this crashed plane, I found a sticky note. It contained yet another number to the lockbox on my island. I then decided to make a little shelter just in case I needed to spend the night here. I had to cut a few trees to get enough logs to put it together, but pretty soon it was done. I found a surfboard which I put on my boat to take home and add to the collection, then got to cutting more trees. Partway through cutting, I made myself a barrel stove to get warm, and by the evening my boat was only partially full of logs. I decided to sleep here so I could collect more logs tomorrow. It was now day 30 and I had more logs to cut, but instead of doing that, I decided to go exploring. I had already explored this island, but I wanted to double check. I easily could have missed a lot of things. I climbed up the lighthouse again, and this time I picked up the snake bracelet. I took it back to my boat, but I put it on the shore. I didn't want it to magically disappear like what happened to the ring. While doing some more exploring, I found the blueprint for a jaguar spear and another journal page. I had to kill this Komodo dragon that started chasing me. Yeah, that's what you get! Try and chase me again! And then had to sneak past this jaguar so I could pick up a blueprint. I soon ended up finding this cave. Inside was the blueprint for a shark axe and a crab spear. There was a sticky note here as well. It had the 4th number for the lockbox. Also on the ground was this key. After all this commotion, I decided to have a peaceful evening cutting down trees. By nighttime, my boat was almost full of logs and I went to bed. It was now day 31 and it was raining. I don't know what it is about these rainy mornings, but they always foreshadow something horrible is gonna happen. I cut some trees, filled up my log rack, and warmed up by the fire. I was ready to leave, so I picked up the snake bracelet and got scammed. What? What are you talking about? Oh man! After that tragedy, I had to cut logs again so I could fill up my boat. I found this journal page, collected some coca, found another surfboard for the collection, and started going back home. After the long boat ride, I put the surfboard on my house and finished off the upgrade with some logs. I transferred all the logs from my raft, placed down the plan for 2 more fence pieces, and built them up before going to bed. It was now day 32 and it was raining again. This meant there was a high chance I was gonna die. I emptied my backpack and then broke a piece of the ceiling so I could make stairs to get to the roof. I put down the plan for a bench and a couple of flags. I put them together, then decided I wanted a farm on the roof and placed a bunch of planter boxes. I put down the plan for a water catcher and a compost as well, and spent the afternoon putting them all together. I hurt myself taking a shortcut off the roof. And luckily had just enough logs to finish everything I was building. I cut down my banana trees on my balcony so I could get the banana leaves for the water catcher. I planted some more banana trees upstairs, did a bit of organizing, then went to bed. I woke up early on day 33. I picked up all the materials needed to make shark repellent and I warmed up by the fire. I hopped on my boat and started sailing towards an island, one that I'm now going to refer to as Ruins Island. When I eventually arrived, I decided to check out this rock in the water, on top of which I found this ancient loot. I picked it up and put it next to my boat, then ran through the forest. I wanted to check out these ruins in the water, but I was really scared I was going to get attacked by sharks. I tried to take it nice and slow, but they somehow got me anyway. Whoa, what the? Where did you come from? Apparently the sharks can just phase through the ground. My conspiracy theory is that they're ghosts. I found some chili peppers which I needed to make some shark repellent, which I put on and jumped into the water. Straight away I found another Wilson. Oh! Wilson again! I put Wilson safely on the beach and went back to exploring underwater. I climbed the ruins as well, but unfortunately I didn't find anything. I tried to take my aggression out on this shark, but it phased through the ground. Hey, where you going? Get back here! Wow! I did manage to kill a different shark though, so I guess it's not the end of the world. I quickly threw together a little shelter, made myself a bed, and called it a night. I woke up on Ruins Island on day 34. I transferred some logs to my boat, then found a turtle whose shell I needed, so I brutally murdered it to take its shell and put that next to the loot. I did some more exploring of the island and accidentally took some fall damage. I continued exploring but didn't find anything more at all. I put what I did find earlier on my boat and started sailing home. Eventually I made it back. I put Wilson next to the other Wilson, took the loot inside as well, and warmed up by the fire. I finally finished the water catcher on my roof and almost died falling off of it. Oh, that was close. All these potatoes I had gone rotten, so I picked them all up and put them in the fertilizer bin. I built myself a table and chair in my room as a little study area and put all the bottled notes I've gathered on top of it. After this, I went to bed. It was now day 35, and I gotta be honest, day 35 was not the most productive day. I pushed the plane a bit closer to my house as it makes a killer decoration, and then I took the boat out again. The goal was to look for new islands to explore. After sailing around my island, I couldn't see anything that I hadn't been to in the distance. So I decided to just go back home. I ran up the stairs to the radio tower, and I figured since I had 4 out of the 6 numbers for the code on this lockbox, that I could brute force the last 2. But I guess the game doesn't work like that, and you can't brute force it no matter what you do. I gave up because obviously it wasn't working, and then I decided to climb the radio tower. Since I had a power box key, I tried to interact with the power box, but nothing was working. I also looked off into the distance to try and see a new island, but I've been to all of the islands I could see. I went home after a day of failures and went to bed. I woke up on day 36 and wanted to redeem myself for my extremely unproductive day yesterday. I picked up the ingredients for shark repellent and planted them on the roof. I added some fertilizer to help them grow faster and then watered both my plants. When I went to fill up my water skin again, it sadly disappeared. Hey! Where did it go? It got absorbed into the abyss, what? I hopped on my boat and started sailing. I was heading towards the big island, which I'll now be calling Aeroplane Island. After a couple hours, I arrived, and it was unfortunately raining. While running around the beach, I noticed a structure of sorts in the forest. On the way over to it, I found the blueprint for a seagull hatchet. The structure turned out to be a giant crashed plane, hence why I named the island Aeroplane Island. While exploring the crash, I found another blueprint, this time for some seasoning, and I actually got stuck in the room the blueprint was in, and it took me a while to get out. Since I am a problem-solving genius, I did manage to escape. I found another blueprint while I was exploring around the plane, but couldn't really find anything else, so I started exploring the forest instead. My exploration led me to the beach, and I found another surfboard which I took to my boat. After this, I warmed up by the fire and went to bed. I woke up on day 37 at 4 AM and it was really dark out. Not the ideal conditions, to be honest. I ran along the beach searching for loot, or maybe I was just going for a morning stroll, and found this piece of sheet metal which I used to create a standing torch. And yeah, this thing works. Very nice. I was checking out the strange, poorly rendered rock when something very unexpected happened. Oh my gosh! Shit! Yeah, I got attacked by a very stealthy jaguar. Oh, no. Oh shit. I did, however, manage to escape by scaling down this cliff. I was really scared to even take a wrong step because I was one hit away from dying. I ran through the forest for some reason and I got attacked yet again. I figured this island wasn't very safe, so I left. I sailed towards another island, the one where I found the couple who died together. I'll be calling this place Heartbreak Island from now on. I looked around the island for anything I missed, but didn't find a whole lot. I drank out of this brewing cup I found on the ground and unfortunately got diarrhea and parasites. I made this barrel stove, ran around the island for anything that could help, and killed a turtle for its delicious meat. I cooked it up alongside a crab I found and enjoyed a delicious meal. Afterwards, I went to bed. I woke up on day 38 on Heartbreak Island, and it was a beautiful day. While walking around exploring, I got attacked. Holy shit! You bitch! And for some reason, I continued to fight. Come here, I'm gonna teach you a lesson. Yeah, I may have died, but that's okay. After loading back in, I was walking around the forest again, and I got attacked again. Oh, hey! Go away! I don't know why I was so confident that I could beat it with my axe, but it didn't work. Okay. After loading in again, I tried to avoid the jaguars and I ended up leaving the island. I made my way to what I'm calling Seaweed Island, because it has that weird floating patch of seaweed. When I arrived on Seaweed Island, I looked around and looked around some more, and I actually found something. I found the blueprint for a cleaver. I also found my 4th bottled note. I kept looking around the island, but didn't find anything more. I decided to cut some trees for eventually when I did go back home. After chucking a heap of logs on my boat, I went to bed in the shelter that I already made here. I woke up on day 39 on Seaweed Island, and I realized I did not want to be here at all. I hopped on my boat and started heading home. The boat ride took a total of 9 minutes. Holy! We need to invest in an outboard motor or something because this is ridiculous. When I got back on my island, I noticed the plane that I kept on the beach as a decoration was now back in the ocean. I decided to swim out so I could push it back to shore, but when I hopped into the ocean, I noticed something. There was an old submarine underwater, right next to my base this whole time. After pushing the plane back to the shore, I dived underwater to check it out, but there was a shark watching me, so I decided to come back another time. I made my way back to my house, grabbed the ingredients for shark repellent, and crafted one. On the roof, I realized my farming was a success. These plants were grown. I planted another chili and coca, and made sure to fertilize them too. I made sure to stock up the compost bin, I organized my inventory, did a little bit more farming, and went to bed. It was now the morning of day 40, and a beautiful day if I do say so myself. My plants on the roof were coming along nicely. I went to the ocean, put on my shark repellent, and dived in. I had to check out the submarine. I looked around and couldn't find anything at first, but soon realized I could break off these hinges. When I broke off the second one, the hatch opened. I swam inside and looked around. I found the silver spade, a can of tuna, and a soda pop. I also found this mysterious repair manual. I swam out of the submarine and made my way back to the beach and checked out the manual. Apparently it's instructions to fix the radio tower. I went to my house and checked out my storage, and I didn't have nearly enough materials to fix anything. I now have another clear goal. Not only do I have to find the last 2 numbers for the lockbox, but I have to gather all these materials to fix the radio tower. I went around the island collecting as many materials as I could. I found this old mattress and broke that down for parts too, and then dropped off everything in my inventory. While I was looking for parts and things to break down, I ended up finding sticky note number 5. It had another number for the lockbox on it. There was only one of these left to find. I went to a place where I took apart a car a while ago, and there are a bunch of materials just floating in the water I didn't pick up then that I picked up now. My inventory actually got full while collecting these, so I dropped everything off at home and made another trip. After I picked up everything I could, I dropped everything off yet again, and I spent the evening going over the radio tower sticky notes. I'm not going to read everything out because that'll take ages, but if you're interested in the story, you can pause and read everything. I didn't even finish reading everything because it was getting pretty late, so I went to bed. I woke up on the morning of day 41. I decided to finish reading the notes I started last night, but again, I'm not going to read them out, so if you want to read them, remember to pause. After this, I climbed the radio tower and went over to the lockbox. I only had 1 number left, so surely I could brute force it. But no, I could not. After my crippling defeat from the lockbox, I figured I just had to find the last sticky note. The bad thing about this is, it could be literally anywhere. Back at my house, I decided to gather all this coca that was finished. I planted some more, and added fertilizer as well. I searched the island for more parts I could collect, but I guess my island was all tapped out. I put on some more shark repellent and dived down to the pirate ship again. I searched and searched, but again, I couldn't find anything. I even went down below to the lower deck and couldn't find anything again. There was, however, a lock I could break, but behind it was nothing. Very sad, I thought there'd be loot here. I swam away from the pirate ship disappointed. On my way back to my house, I found the sign, and I placed it by the entrance. In my house, I reviewed the requirements for fixing the radio tower, and I think I had enough for one of them. I picked up all the parts I need that I'd stored in my house, and I figured I'd do it first thing tomorrow. I woke up on the morning of day 42 with big plans to fix the segment of the radio tower. I walked up the stairs, climbed up the ladder, and I fixed the piece I could. There were 2 more segments of the radio tower to fix, but I'd need to collect more parts first. There were no parts left for me to find on my island, so I'd have to search elsewhere. I sailed towards Ruins Island. When I did eventually arrive on the island, I started searching around. I was looking for items I could break down like TVs or couches, things like that. Unfortunately, the only thing I could find was the sheet metal. I continued the search, but I was completely out of luck. I could not find anything besides stupid sheet metal. Eventually, I stumbled across a blueprint for a meat smoker, which was pretty cool. But by this point, it was getting pretty late, so I went to bed in my shelter that I had here. I woke up quite early on the morning of day 43, and I figured there was nothing left for me on this island, so I started sailing away. I was heading towards Aeroplane Island. Surely there'd be something here. I looked around the island and, as usual, found some sheet metal, but did actually find some things to break down too. I had a rest to warm up by the fire and continued my search, and found a broken down stove. I took it apart with my hammer and it had a bunch of useful parts I needed. I also found and took apart this broken fan, and my inventory got full, so I started sailing home. I didn't trust the boat storage at all, as it had a tendency to make things disappear. After the extremely long boat ride home, I eventually made it back to my island. I organized my inventory from the trip, picked up the materials to fix the second segment of the radio tower, then climbed the stairs and ladder to fix it. After this was done, I would only have 1 segment left to build, but I still needed to collect a lot more parts first. Back at my base, I put together a standing torch, which is pretty cool. Wow, pretty cool. And then I called it for the night. On day 44, the collecting materials grind continued, and I sailed back to Aeroplane Island. When I got to shore, I started looking around again. I found a broken microwave, an old fridge, a damaged lamp, an old fan, and an air conditioning unit, all having useful parts I needed. Just like that, there were no more items I could break down on the island, so I started sailing towards a different one. I was going towards Rock Island, and as usual, it was taking a while, but when I got there, I started looking around, and very unfortunately, there was nothing. I started a fire because I was getting cold, and then I went to bed. It was a nice day on the morning of day 45, and I went straight back to searching for materials. The search didn't go phenomenal, but I did manage to stumble across this ancient saucer, which I feel will be a nice collectible for my house. I put it down so I could continue exploring, but there was nothing on this island. I put the collectible on my boat. Hey! What? I put the collectible on my boat, and I started sailing away. After sailing for what felt like a long time, I made it to Lighthouse Island, and I started searching for materials again. Luckily, there was a lot. I found this lamp, another microwave, a laptop, and a TV. There was more as well, but I already had enough. My inventory was full, and I had enough materials to finish the radio tower. I figured while I was here, I'd gather up some logs so I could bring them back home later. I put them on my storage in my raft, and then went to bed. I woke up on day 46 with my inventory full and my raft full of logs, and I started sailing back home. As soon as I did make it back home, I filled my inventory up with materials to fix the last segment of the radio tower. I climbed the stairs again, climbed back up the ladder, and at the top repaired it. I opened the power box with the key I got from Lighthouse Island a while ago, and nothing happened. Yeah, repairing the radio tower, finding the key, and opening the power box does absolutely nothing. I even tried smacking it with my hammer, but yeah, nothing happened. What a complete waste of time. On a positive note though, I did find a cassette tape up here.
James, if you're hearing this, things have taken a turn I didn't anticipate. This is your uncle, Seamus.
I'd finally found signs of my uncle. I kind of forgotten that's why I was here in the first place. He was warning me about the dangers of the island and being all mysterious, but dude, I've been here for a month and a half already. Relax.
Trust your instincts, and don't let this place take you too.
After listening to the cassette tape, I now had a new objective. To make a bed. And after putting it together, I'd finally completed the tutorial. 46 days in. After what I'm assuming is the world record time for the tutorial, I figured there might be more tape recordings around and I'd have to search for them. But before that, I decided to have a chill evening, transferring logs from my raft to my storage. I dug up a bunch of potatoes as well, as I was going to use them for fertilizer later. I sat down in my study to ponder my next move, and then went to bed when it got late. It was now the morning of day 47 and time to find some cassette tapes. Pretty much immediately, I got very lucky and I found one overlooking my house. Now that I actually know what I'm looking for, it's a bit easier to find them. On the tape is my uncle warning me about the island again and talking about some treasure.
But also pirate treasure.
After his whole spiel, I go off to look for more cassette tapes. I don't find the next one straight away, but I do find this necklace dangling from this overhanging tree. Oh, this is sketchy. Okay, we got it, okay. Ooh. I drop the necklace off at my house and I continue the search. And after some looking around, I eventually find it.
James, it's Seamus.
My uncle tells me there's a blueprint on how to build a plane on this island. He also wants me to take 6 treasures home with me.
I've left those blueprints scattered around the island. How to build a plane, if you can. Grab at least 6 of the treasures hidden on this island before you escape.
Thankfully, he does stop talking, and it doesn't take long for me to find the plane blueprint he was talking about. I place down the blueprint on a beach near my house, and pick up all the materials I have at home. I also placed the plan for all the plane parts that I've found so far. I used all the materials I had, but I still needed a lot more. At this point, I was really unsure that there even were enough materials to find. I took even more materials from my house and added them to the plane. I built myself a workstation, I put down the blueprint for a prep table and a spinning wheel, and wanted to build some torches as well. I basically spent the entire evening putting them all together. After this, I went to bed. On the morning of day 48, I decided to make a scarecrow for my roof. This one required a Wilson head, and since I had 2, I didn't mind giving one up. Hey, buddy! Yeah! I made myself a bronze pickaxe and mined a ton of gold ore until the pickaxe broke. I put some of the gold ore in the furnace, but it immediately started raining, so I couldn't smelt anything. I put the rest of the gold shards in the shard box and on the beach. I then planned out some tool racks, but didn't have any large sticks, so I broke down some logs instead. I soon put all the tool racks together and planned out some weapon racks on the other side. I started smelting the gold shards, got some gold bars, and did even more smelting. I made myself a gold axe, broke down even more logs so I could get more large sticks for the weapon racks, but unfortunately I ran out of logs, so the weapon racks would remain incomplete. I winded down in the evening by doing some farming, replanting my crops, and fertilizing them. After this, I went to bed. I woke up on day 49 and I was clearing my inventory. I was going a bit stir crazy, so I decided to leave my home island. I was going towards Lighthouse Island. Not only did I need to collect logs, but I also needed to find the last sticky note for the lockbox. I soon made it to land and immediately started chopping trees. After dropping off some logs, I figured I might as well do some exploring while the sun's out. I didn't find any sticky notes, but I did find a surfboard, which I put on my boat. After the surfboard, I continued exploring and explored some more. And did even more exploring, but the only thing I found was the blueprint for more seasoning. The only thing I did in the evening was cut a bunch of trees and take the logs back to my raft, and nothing bad happened at all. Whoa. Whoa, shit! Get out of there, bro. Dude, I'm one hit. Oh shit, I'm out of stamina. Uh-oh. Oh, what? Okay. I'm safe. Damn, you pussy. Get out of here! Eventually, the douchebag Jaguar did walk away, and I went to bed traumatized. I woke up on day 50, and I was hoping for no Jaguar run-ins today. Whoa! No. Unfortunately, I did not get my wish, and apparently, building foundations are not safe to be on. It seems Jaguars are equipped with the FMJ attachment. What? Wow, okay. When I loaded back in, I figured I should stay far away from the Jaguar. He is way too strong for my feeble body. Instead of cutting trees, I decided to do some exploring. Not very successful exploring, but I went exploring. Eventually, I did get back to cutting trees, and thankfully, the Jaguar was nowhere to be seen. It was pretty dark by the time I cut enough trees to get enough logs to fill up my log racks on my raft, but I decided to go home anyway. When I did get home, I transferred logs in the dark, and when it was all done, went to bed. I woke up on day 51 and I immediately started adding some coconuts to the coconut table. I chopped up some logs and I finally finished all the weapon racks. I then placed the plan for a shelf and started putting it together. Luckily, I had the materials for it under my house and soon it was done. I quickly planned out and built a wine rack as well so I had somewhere to store all my bottled notes. I started smelting some gold in the furnace, and while it was smelting, I gathered up some rocks in the forest and put them in storage. When the gold was done, I picked it up along with the gold I already had. I made a bunch of gold axes and put them on the tool rack. I made myself a bunch of stone axes as well and put them on a different tool rack. I tried smelting some more, but I was out of small sticks, so I went to bed. It was now day 52 and I didn't have a lot of plans today, to be honest. I collected a bunch of gold, did a bit of organizing around my house, and put all the gold shards I just collected on the beach. After turning on the furnace, I went around picking up coconuts. It's coconut time, baby. I added all the coconuts I just gathered to the coconut table, organized my inventory for a bit, and then made a few more gold axes to finish off the tool rack. Making all those tools used a lot of rope, so I cut a bunch of yucca so I could make more and recoup my losses. I turned on the furnace to make some more gold, before placing down the plan for a table and chair, putting them together, and going to bed. On the morning of day 53, I put all the rope in these shelves that I built. I put all of my treasured items on the table in the middle of the room, and then I crafted myself a fishing rod. I took the fishing rod to my boat and I started fishing. The fishing isn't the most advanced I've ever seen in a game. You just wait and a fish eventually goes on your line. You don't have to press any buttons at all besides casting the rod. I did spend a bit of time fishing, but after catching a couple of fish, I got extremely bored and I put my fishing rod on the tool rack. I put all the fish I caught on the stove and I cooked them up. After eating all the fish, I started looking around the island. The only thing I found was the sheet metal which I put under my house. I broke down a couple of logs into large sticks, broke down the large sticks into small sticks, and then made a ton of arrows before going to bed. I woke up on day 54 and I completely organized my inventory. I hopped on my boat and I started sailing. I was heading towards Airplane Island with the goal of finding the last sticky note and the code to the lockbox. When I made it to land, I tested out my bow, then started exploring. After a little bit of searching, I found a bottled note just sitting on a rock. I continued exploring around the forest, and I did actually find a sticky note, but it wasn't the one I was after. It's cool to find a collectible, I suppose, but the red sticky notes are not what I want. I accidentally hurt myself walking back to my makeshift house here. Ouch! And then I started expanding my home. I cut a couple of trees, added the logs to the house, placed even more blueprints, then cut some more trees and added more logs. I didn't quite finish, but it was getting late, so I went to bed. I went out on day 55 with the plan to kill the Jaguar. I wandered through the forest looking for him, but he was elusive. Eventually, I caught a glimpse of him, but it kinda scared me. It started chasing me, so I ran away to get some distance. I started firing arrows at it, but it didn't like it and started chasing me again. Oh no! I set upon this rock where he couldn't reach me and I started shooting again. I kept firing arrows at him, but he couldn't reach me. He ended up just running around in circles. He phased into the wall at one point, and when he came out, I finished him off. Yeah! I reclaimed a bunch of my arrows, and when I skinned him, unfortunately, all his materials went through the floor. After I killed the jaguar, I went straight back to exploring, and I actually found a couple more sticky notes. Unfortunately, they were red, but they're better than nothing. I went back to my home to cut some trees in the forest, and I used the logs to finish the upgrade on my house. Right nearby, I actually found another sticky note. I built a table and chair, and then went to bed. It was now day 56, and I still hadn't found the sticky note I was looking for. In the forest, I got into a run-in with a Komodo dragon, and unfortunately got poisoned. I hopped on my boat and started heading towards Ruins Island, and I soon got to shore. But my health was getting really low, and I was still poisoned. And sadly, the unfortunate happened. Oh... man. I decided not to mess with the Komodo dragon this time and ran to my boat. I did the long boat ride to Ruins Island yet again. I eventually made it to shore and thankfully didn't drop dead from poison. I began searching yet again. My main goal still being to find the last sticky note. Mid-search, there was a point where I got jump scared. Oh my gosh, what the... Oh my god. Stupid ghost shark, man. Always scaring me and phasing through walls. I continued my search around the island, and I actually found another blueprint for the plane. And, luckily, I finally found the sticky note I was looking for. We had it. I finally had the code for the lockbox. Filled with joy, I ran back to my boat. Yay! Yippee! Yippee! And I started sailing home. Soon enough, I made it back to my island and I immediately started running up to the radio tower. When I got to the top, I input the code that I've definitely input before, and I found yet another sticky note and a GPS radar. I took out the GPS and it was pointing somewhere. I had to check this out. And then I read the note. The note says I can now find GPS satellites and they can somehow get me to safety. I went back home to empty my inventory and I sat and pondered. Was the radar leading me towards these GPS satellites, and how would they help me get off the island? Regardless of the answer, it was getting late, so I went to bed. On day 57, I was following the GPS. It was leading me towards Airplane Island. After a quick boat ride, I made it to land, and I continued following the radar. It led me to this dead body surrounded by GPS tags and a sticky note. After I picked them all up, I went back to my boat and started sailing right back home. I soon made it back to my island and I read the note. It says a deciphering book is hidden where the sun meets the sea and I need to use the satellites to track it down. Whatever this means, I didn't know, but if I didn't figure it out, I'd be trapped on this island forever. I put all the GPS tags down for now as I didn't even know where to start. I added the plane blueprint I found to the plane, and at this point I am certain there's not enough materials left to build it. Since I didn't know how to progress or escape the island, I decided to shift my focus to living a lavish lifestyle here on the island. I started breaking branches to get materials for a tent I was making. I added some palm fronds I found as well, and broke down a log to get some large sticks to finish it off. I made myself a bed and placed down the plan for a little campfire area before going to sleep. Not a lot happened on day 58 besides a lot of building. I put together the campfire and all the seats surrounding it. I made a table next to the tent and put this caution sign on it. I also planned out a standing torch and built that too. I went back to my house on the other side of the island, placed down the plan for a couple of flags, built them and a couple of windmills for decoration as well. After this, I went to bed. I woke up on day 59 and figured my room looked a bit barren. I decided I wanted a tree here. I cut down a banana tree outside, replanted the banana, and planted one inside as well. It started raining, and even though I could see the rain inside, it did not water my banana tree. So I figured I needed to make a water skin, but I had no leather. I placed down the plan for a tanning rack and quickly put it together, but I needed some skin to make the leather. I whipped out my bow and I started attacking this turtle that was near my house, but when I skinned him, I quickly realized that he does not drop any skin. I planted a bunch of crops in the crop plots on the beach outside, and then I killed this bird for no reason. I quickly put together a meat smoker and then started sailing towards Lighthouse Island. It got stormy on the way there, but eventually I made it. I went over to my makeshift shelter and I figured it needed an upgrade, and I started placing down some plans. I cut down a bunch of trees in the surrounding forest, but didn't get anywhere close to finishing the upgrade. At this point, it was my 10 PM bedtime, so I went to sleep. I woke up on day 60 craving violence. I wanted to murder. After a bunch of unnecessary killing and violence, I decided to cut some trees so I could work on my house. I added some logs to my house, placed the plan for a campfire and a small stick holder, got the urge again, and then went back to cutting more trees. While cutting trees, I got attacked by a spider and a jaguar as well, and I ran for my life. Luckily, I made it to a rock and the jaguar couldn't reach me. I used this rock as a vantage point to fire shots at the jaguar, but unfortunately my bow ended up breaking. I wanted to make a crossbow but didn't have any sticks, so I waited for the jaguar to go away before going into the forest to find some. Soon I did find enough sticks to make the crossbow, and I went hunting for the punk-ass jaguar. After a couple of shots it was running away, and a final shot finished it off. I skinned it and only got some meat and a couple of jaguar tooth. I still had no leather. I cut some trees in the evening, finished off the house, and went to bed. I woke up on the morning of day 61 and it was a beautiful day. I spent a bit of time gathering some materials in the forest and I finished off my campfire. I then placed the plan for some seating around the campfire and a door for my house. I collected some logs from trees I'd already cut down and I put everything together. I placed down the plan for a water catcher and quickly put that together too. I planned out and built a large crop plot and had a realization when planting a banana. Banana plantation. We're gonna make a banana plantation. I spent basically the entire day building these large crop plots and spent the evening planning even more. I put down the plan for a windmill as well and then went to bed because it was late. I woke up on the morning of day 62 with a lot more work to do on the plantation. I picked up some of the logs from the trees I cut down yesterday and started putting some more of the crop plots together. Back in the forest, I cut down some small trees for some large sticks so I could finish off the windmill, then got straight back to cutting trees so I could finish off the last of the crop plots. I cut down a bunch of banana trees so I could get a bunch of bananas, and I planted them all on my new plantation. With the plantation finished, I dropped off some tires to my raft, and then started cutting down some trees so I'd have some resources to take home. I did this until it was quite late, and then I went to bed. It was now day 63 and my plantation was coming along nicely. The banana trees were growing. I noticed this ancient saucer on the beach that I'd completely forgot about, and I put it on my boat along with a surfboard, then started sailing home. When I finally did get back to my island, I dropped off the ancient saucer with the rest of my treasure. Whoa! That's the most exciting thing that's happened in days. I dropped off some coconuts to the coconut table and then decided I wanted a massive farm outside. I placed down a ton of crop plots and then surrounded them with the plan for a bunch of fences. Placing the plan was just the easy part, as now I had to get all the materials to put them together. I was completely out of rope, so I cut a bunch of yucca plants so I could turn them into a shit ton of rope. I needed the rope to add to all the fences, and having extra was a good thing. I took materials off my boat to keep working on the fence, and then took some logs out of my storage to start making the crop plots. It got quite late, so I decided to go to bed, and I'd have to finish this another day. I woke up on day 64 and the only plan was to do a ton of building. I put together crop plots, got some logs out of storage, and put together more crop plots over and over and over again until it was all done. Hooray, the crop plots are done. I now had to put together all the fences. The main time sink for this was getting all the palm fronds. I had to look around the forest to find them, but luckily they were abundant. I pretty much did this all day until it got dark, and I still didn't finish by the time I was ready to go to bed. I tucked in for the night, and I'd have to finish tomorrow. I woke up on day 65, and I still had more work to do. I picked up more palm fronds in the forest and continued work on the fence. Eventually, I did finally complete the fence. I put down the plan for a couple of compost bins and I had the materials to put them together. I took out a bunch of plants from my inventory that I've gathered over the days, and I started planting them in all the crop plots outside. After I finished planting everything, I actually decided to make 3 more crop plots, but I didn't have the logs to finish them all off. I placed down the plan for a few more fences as well, and then I chucked a bunch of old food in the compost. I gathered more palm fronds in the forest and added them to the fences, but after doing this a few times, it was getting late, so I went to bed. It was now day 66 and my base had basically no materials at all. I took the boat out and went towards Ruins Island to hopefully get some logs. When I made it to land, I spent literally the entire day cutting down trees and putting them on the raft. I did absolutely nothing else. I cut down some small trees in the dark, which I also put on the boat, and when it got really late, I went to bed. I woke up on day 67 with a boat full of loot. I spent the morning gathering a bunch of plants around the island that I could hopefully grow at home, and I dropped off some sheet metal to the boat before sailing back home. After the long boat ride, I made it back to my island. I checked out my farm and a lot of my crops had died. No! No! No, how did this happen? I got rid of all the dead crops, finished off the last crop plot, and planted a bunch of new plants. I completely emptied my inventory after gathering so much on the big trip, and then went to the forest to find some palm fronds to keep working on the fence. While running back and forth, I got jump scared by sticky keys. Oh my, okay. But I didn't quite finish the fence before going to bed. I woke up on day 68 and it was raining. Not a great start to the day. I finished off the last of the fences, planted a bunch more plants, and did a heap of fertilizing as well. I planted different things in all the crop plots I had, and went through the slow process of adding fertilizer to all of them as well. I made myself a bug net, and the way my guy's holding it reminds me of SpongeBob, but anyway, by the evening, all of my crops were coming along nicely. I made a couple of tables by the farm, and then I had a relaxing evening watching the ocean. It's such a beautiful night, and I haven't taken much time to relax at all. After I sat watching the ocean for a couple hours, I went to bed. I woke up on day 69. You know what that means? Time to get freaky! I spent the morning transferring logs from my raft to my storage. When I was done, I had a whole mountain of logs just sitting on the beach. I finally figured it was time to get rid of my overlapping sails because I had literally 5 of them stacked on top of each other. I smacked them with my hammer, and it didn't take long before I only had one left. After this, I tested out the bug net, and I quickly learned that you can't use the bug net to catch crabs. I gotta be honest, the net really is useless. It does exactly the same thing as any other tool would do. It just saves you the trouble of picking something up after you kill it. I put it on the tool rack, and I was pretty certain I was never going to be using this again. Afterwards, I built a small stick holder, and I filled it up with small sticks from my raft. I planned out and put together a second sail and second rudder on my boat, but I quickly realized it doesn't make the ship go any faster, and doesn't help with the turning radius at all. Regardless, I made my way over to Lighthouse Island, and my plantation had grown. Hey, check it out, it's time! Daylight come, and we wanna go home. I spent the evening shooting small animals on the beach with my crossbow. Not my most productive evening, to be honest. I found a surfboard which I put next to the plantation, then went straight back to shooting small creatures. I took apart this fridge I found on the beach for some parts, warmed up by the fire, and went to bed for the night. I woke up on the morning of day 70, picked up the surfboard I found yesterday, and put it on my boat. I started sailing home, but stopped pretty much straight away because my boat was veering off to the side. I destroyed the large storage container because I never used it, and anything I did put in there disappeared. The boat ride was uneventful as usual, and when I got back home, I stored all the sheet metal under my house. I picked up a brewing cup I had by my campfire and used it to water the tree I was growing in my room. I placed down the plan for a bunch of scarecrows around my farm outside, and I built them all up. I planted some banana trees on my roof, spent the evening adding fertilizer to them, and then went to bed. On the morning of day 71, my banana tree was coming along nicely, and I went outside. I decided to build a new raft because my old one was slow and always turned to the side. After building the base, I placed down the plan for a sail and rudder, and it didn't take long for me to put them together too. I was now the proud owner of the most minimalistic raft possible. I decided to sail towards Lighthouse Island. On the way, I noticed a surfboard in the water. I don't exactly know how this got here, but I decided to take it with me to add to my collection. Soon enough, I made it to land. I noticed the snake bracelet on the beach that I'd completely forgot about, and I'd have to take this home later. I ran around the island looking for useful parts I could collect, and soon came across this old broken car that I started taking apart. After smacking the car for what felt like a really long time, it eventually did get dismantled, and I filled my inventory with the parts it dropped. After my inventory did get full, I started running back to my boat, but found the surfboard along the way. I put it on my raft with the other one, didn't forget about the snake bracelet this time, and started going home. I was pretty cold, and it was pretty late by the time I got home, so I put the bracelet with all my other artifacts, warmed up by the fire, and went to sleep. I spent the morning of day 72 trying to organize my artifacts, but it was not going that well. I decided to check out the prep table as I've never even touched it, and something very strange happened. What happened? Where am I? Uh-oh. Oh my, okay. Yeah, for some reason, the prep table teleported me way underwater, and I slowly swam to the surface. I jumped on this rock, and I was nowhere near my base. How did this happen? For some reason, it teleported me to Ruins Island, and I had no way to get home. I was stranded. I figured I'd have to build myself another raft to get off the island, so I cut some trees to get the logs for the base. I picked up some cloth that was lying on the beach and used it to make the sail. The boat was already done and I started sailing home. When I did eventually get back home, I ran along the beach and put the 2 surfboards on my house. I added the materials I got from Lighthouse Island yesterday to the plane, then organized my inventory. I made a flag by the entrance of my base and planned another one on the roof. While putting it together, I did accidentally fall off. Oh. Eventually, I did put that flag together too, and I went to bed. I woke up on the morning of day 73 and for some reason decided to try the prep table again. Oh my gosh. Note to self, do not use the prep table. I swam to the surface and was completely surrounded by sharks, but somehow survived and made it to the shore. I cut some trees to get even more logs for yet another raft, placed the plan for a sail and rudder, and soon put them together as well. It was another uneventful boat ride home and I parked up by the farm. I was not happy with the prep table. Screw you! I ran over to my tent and placed down the plan for some shelves inside. I picked up some logs from my storage, added them to the blueprint, and got some sheet metal from storage too, and finished it off. I picked up a bunch of mushrooms that were in the grass nearby, and I put them on the shelf. Then I broke down some sheet metal I had, and added the metal scraps to the plane. After this, I started sailing towards Lighthouse Island, but by the time I got there, it was pretty late, so I went to bed. I woke up on the morning of day 74 on Lighthouse Island and it was a sunny day. I spent the morning breaking down a bunch of appliances and furniture I found for their materials, and I immediately started sailing back home. When I did get back to my island, I added some of the materials I got to the plane and put the rest in storage. After this, I set off sailing yet again, this time to Aeroplane Island. When I did reach the island and make it to shore, I placed down some blueprints to expand my house and started cutting trees. I added the logs I got to the house, broke down a wall, and placed down the plan for 3 more. When I finished putting these together, it was pretty late, so I went to bed. I woke up on the morning of day 75, and I had big plans to upgrade my house vertically. I placed down some plans, cut a bunch of trees, and added the logs to the build. I placed down even more plans, but I was a bit bored of cutting down trees, so I walked through the forest instead. I actually found a red sticky note, which is cool, I guess, and then I started sailing back home. Soon enough, I made it back to my island, added a surfboard I found to the collection, picked up some new tools, and then watched the sun go down. It started raining as I turned on this torch, and after chilling by my tent for a bit, I went to bed. I woke up outside my tent on the morning of day 76, and I hopped on my raft and started sailing towards Aeroplane Island to do more building. I somehow tipped over my boat when I made it to the island, and after fixing it, I got straight back to putting my house together. I spent a bunch of time cutting a bunch of trees, added some more logs to the build, and did even more planning to make my house even taller. I added some more logs to the house, cut some more trees, added even more logs, and cut even more trees. It honestly was a bit boring and repetitive doing all this, but it had to be done. I was committed. It got to a point where the building was so tall I couldn't add any more logs. The game just didn't give me the option to add them. I figured I'd have to make some kind of scaffolding to continue. But it was a job for another day because it was getting late, so I went to bed. On the morning of day 77, I had a lot of work to do. I planned out a bunch of structures to be used as scaffolding, and then cut a bunch of trees to get a bunch of logs. I soon put together my scaffolding, and to my surprise, it actually worked. I cut down some more trees and added them to the building, then planned out some more stairs and added even more logs. The building was coming along nicely. While running through the forest, I almost died. What? What happened? Oh, that was close. I added some more logs to my house, and then I went to bed a bit early because my health was extremely low. Day 78 was pretty much exactly the same as the day before. I cut a bunch of trees, hurt myself, placed down a bunch of blueprints, cut even more trees, and struggled to add logs to my house. I hurt myself, cut more trees, added more logs, and cut even more trees and placed more blueprints before going to bed. Day 79 was another nice day, and the plan was to do exactly the same thing as yesterday. In the morning, I did notice that it now takes an extremely long time to get to the top of my ever-expanding house. But soon enough, I got straight back to it. I added a few more final logs to my house before going to bed again. I woke up on day 80 and I gotta be honest, I was tired of cutting trees all day. I climbed to the top of my house and I was happy with the view. It looked nice, I'd done a good job. I placed down the plan for a large stick holder and then got to cutting down small trees outside. Not only to get large sticks, but to declutter my front yard. I put together the large stick holder, then started sailing home. I realized it had been over 5 days before I'd been back, and it was nice to chill by the fire for a bit before going to bed. I woke up on day 81 with a plan. I took some logs out of storage and took them to my tent. I built myself a stool and a small storage box. The plan was simple. I was gonna whip out my fishing rod and fish all day and see what I'd catch at the end of it. Very exciting stuff, besides the fact that it was excruciatingly boring. Soon I'd start catching fish, and when I did, I'd put them in the storage box. It really was just a matter of casting out my line and waiting. Soon enough, I'd start catching a bunch of fish. By midday, the fish box was coming along nicely. I continued with my fishing ventures until it got dark and kept catching fish. By the time I was ready to go to bed, my fish box was almost full. I had a ton of fish, but I still wanted more. I figured I'd catch some more tomorrow. For now though, I went to bed. On day 82, I decided to do exactly the same thing again. I made my way to the fishing spot, cast out my rod, and waited. Just like yesterday, I fished and caught fish all day. I fished all day until it got dark, and by now my fish box was looking really good. Fish! So many fish! I love fish. I built another storage box by my house and put all the bugs I've gathered over the days in it. I dropped off my coconuts to the coconut table and went to bed. I woke up on day 83 with another plan. I was going to catch bugs all day with my bug net and see how many I had at the end of it. At this point, I was just doing all the Animal Crossing activities I could. I kept mistaking crabs for bugs, but besides that, the collecting went well. By 9 AM, my newly named bug box was coming along nicely, and I got straight back to it. After catching a few more bugs, the bug box was stacked, but I wanted more. It was at about this point I realized that there were no more bugs on my entire island, so I hopped on my boat and went over to another to hopefully find more bugs. After the trip, which always feels like it takes an extremely long time, I made it to Lighthouse Island and started searching for more bugs. The plan was a success. There were a ton of bugs here. I caught so many that my bug net broke and I had to make another one. And even then I continued catching bugs until my inventory was completely full. After this, I warmed up by the fire and went to bed. I woke up on day 84 and I was done with catching bugs. I hopped on my boat and started sailing home. When I did eventually get back to my island, I added all the bugs I'd caught to my bug box, and it was now overflowing and defying gravity. While looking through all the blueprints I had, I realized I hadn't crafted half of them. And I had the materials, so I thought I'd craft them today. I made myself an elite crab trap and an elite bird trap. I then used the furnace to smelt some ore as I needed it to make this cleaver. Damn, check this thing out. I'm ready to go to London. I put the cleaver on a table in my house and made myself a crab spear and a trident. These are honestly basically the same item. I spent the evening testing out the trident. Hoo-yah! Oh man. And it's safe to say I got pretty good with this thing. Afterwards, I called it a night. I woke up on day 85 and I read my journal. It read the deciphering book is hidden where the sun meets the sea. I made some shark repellent and started sailing to see if I could figure out what it meant. The plan was to sail towards where the sun normally sets and go underwater to try and find the deciphering book. Probably not the most thought out plan to be honest, but it's all I really had. I stopped off at Lighthouse Island to wait and see where the sun actually set, and I did some senseless violence while I was here. I also noticed the skeleton bleeds when you hit it for some reason, and did some more exploring. Eventually the sun was setting, so I hopped on my boat and started sailing towards it. I realized while sailing that it was getting really dark, but hopefully I'd find something anyway. Eventually I stopped my raft and hopped into the water to see if I could find anything. No, that's too scary. Yeah, it was too dark to see anything, so I sailed back to Lighthouse Island, ran to my house, went inside, and went to bed. I'd have to check it out again tomorrow. On day 86, the search continued. I ran out to my boat and started sailing again. This time I kinda knew where to go, so I started sailing that way. After I got a good distance away from the island, I checked the ocean but could see nothing but blue. I then saw a shark coming towards me in the distance, so I hopped on my boat and started sailing further away. I stopped the boat again and jumped in the ocean, but quickly realized this was a complete lost cause, and there were sharks. Wow! How did that hit me? I put on some shark repellent and went to get my revenge. Anyway, after killing 7 sharks, there were now none left. I'd literally killed every shark in the entire game. I started sailing home after a mission failed. I couldn't find anything. It was pretty late by the time I got to my island, and soon enough I was running to my house. I chucked all the shark meat I got in the compost bin, and I made myself a shark axe. This shark axe is the best axe in the game. It doesn't have durability and lasts forever. I sorted out my inventory, ran over to my tent, and went to sleep. I woke up on day 87 and I ran over towards my boat. I hopped on and started sailing towards the pirate ship. When I got there, I lowered the sail and checked it out. And yeah, there were no sharks. I had killed them all, and apparently they don't respawn. I swam down to the front of the boat, and surprisingly, there was actually loot here. Why this wasn't inside the boat is kind of beyond me, but a good surprise regardless. I went to the back of the boat and there were more goodies there too. It got me thinking there must be heaps of loot hidden underwater. I checked all around inside the boat again, but yeah, there was no luck. There's nothing inside the boat. I swam up to the surface, hopped on my boat and sailed to shore. I ran across my island, hopped into the ocean on the other side, and checked all around the broken submarine. Unfortunately, I didn't find anything this time, but there was still hope. I swam around the island underwater looking for more loot, but unfortunately didn't find anything more. I emptied out my inventory, warmed up by this torch in my house, and went to bed. I woke up on day 88 with a new goal. I wanted to check underwater on different islands. I hopped on my raft and started sailing towards Rock Island. Soon enough, I arrived, hopped in the water, and started looking around. I swam around for a while, but again, did not find anything, so I hopped back on my boat and started sailing again. On my way to Heartbreak Island, I stopped the boat and jumped into the water to do more searching. All I found was this giant floating rock. Whoa. Whoa. How is it doing that? Anyway, I continued sailing and every now and then stopped the boat to check underwater. Soon enough, I made it to Heartbreak Island, and after killing a crab, got hit with instant karma because this jaguar decided to eat me and I died. I tried to fight the jaguar again, and died again, but on my third try, it went a lot better. Alright, let's do this! Let's do this! Uh-oh, this is bad. Oh, that worked! Nice! Take this! I built myself a water catcher because I was thirsty, and I went to bed. I woke up on day 89 thirsty, but I went over to the water catcher and there was no water inside. I cut down some trees to get some coconuts to quench my thirst. And straight afterwards, I went into the water to start searching again. I went all around the island, but again did not find anything. I figured a different island might have what I was looking for, so I made my way to Seaweed Island and I hopped in the water. I decided to swim to the bottom of the seaweed and surprisingly, there was a car at the bottom. On top of the car, I found another artifact. I swam with the artifact up to the surface and chucked it on the beach by my boat. I went right back into the water to keep searching, but did not find anything. I spent the evening cutting down a couple of trees so I could get some more coconuts, and after quenching my thirst, I went to bed. I woke up on day 90, picked up my new artifact, the Golden Cup, and I put it on my boat and started sailing towards Aeroplane Island. Eventually, I made it to land and put my artifact on the beach because I didn't want to lose it. Again, I jumped into the water and started looking around. I swam around the entire island, but unfortunately did not find anything yet again. I picked up the Golden Cup and jumped back on my raft. I started sailing towards Ruins Island to do the same thing over there. When I did make it to the island, I did just that. I jumped back into the water and started searching around. I don't know if I'm just blind or unlucky or there really is nothing down here, but I didn't find anything again. I made myself a little fire and started it to warm up, and then cut some trees for more coconuts. I climbed the structure in the middle of the lake and tried to take apart the flag up there, but the axe couldn't destroy it. I needed a stone hammer, and I didn't have the resources to make one. I jumped off the structure and decided to call it a night. I woke up on day 91, and I was pretty certain there was nothing more underwater by any island. I picked up my Golden Cup and started sailing back home. When I did make it back to my island, I struggled to neatly place the cup with the rest of my artifacts. I eventually gave up because, it's good enough, and I ran over to my boat again. This time I was sailing towards Aeroplane Island. I felt like doing more building. When I made it to shore, I started doing just that. I placed down the blueprints for a bunch of walls and floors, cut a bunch of trees in the forest, and when it got late, I went to bed. The whole plan for day 92 was just to do more building. I spent a bunch of time cutting a bunch of trees, I added logs to my house, cut more trees, and placed more blueprints. And yeah, it now takes an extremely long time to get up and down my house. It literally takes over a minute to do it. When I did get to the bottom floor, I went to bed. Day 93 was exactly the same as the day before. I just built all day. All I did was cut trees, add logs to my house, and place a bunch of blueprints. That's it. After doing this all day, I went to bed. On day 94, I was tired of building. I'd spent the last few days doing it and I was done. I didn't want to do any more. I decided to test if there was fall damage. And yeah, there is. I couldn't even build more if I wanted to. The option was there, but pressing the button did nothing. I decided to do some painful parkour instead. Some very painful parkour. It was raining out and I figured my tower looked pretty good. For some reason, I decided to swim home and it was actually relatively quick. But yeah, I don't know why I figured this was a good idea. They call me Michael Phelps. I'm a swimmer for real. I made it back to my island unscathed and I chilled by the campfire for a bit. I dropped off some coconuts I collected and decided I wanted to build some windmills on the roof. It didn't take very long for me to put all the windmills together, and after I did, I went for a run around the island. Gotta keep the fitness up, you know? It was getting late, so I went to bed. I woke up on day 95 craving violence, as one does, and I killed a bunch of seagulls on the beach. I'm not a psychopath, I am just bored. I fell off a cliff and then started sailing away on my boat. Soon enough, I made it to Lighthouse Island. I killed a couple of crabs just roaming around the beach, then I picked up some sheet metal. I found some materials I didn't pick up earlier and put the sheet metal in a pile by my boat. I dismantled a broken microwave for its parts and an old TV. After stacking even more sheet metal on the beach, I went to bed. The morning of day 96 was a beautiful one. It was a sunny day. I picked up some more sheet metal on the beach and put everything I had on the boat. With my inventory full of materials and my boat full of sheet metal, I sailed home. And I don't know if it was the sheet metal slowing me down or something, but it took an extremely long time. I spent the evening transferring sheet metal from my raft to under my house, and then I started a fire to warm up and chilled out for a bit before going to bed. I woke up on day 97 and I cleared out my inventory from the day before. I figured it was time to clean up the coconut table as there were coconuts all over the ground. While sitting in this chair though, I got stuck and I could not get out of it. Uh-oh. Help! Help! I ended up having to break the chair to get out as there was nothing else I could do. Oh, I'm free! Anyway, I carefully stacked all the coconuts on the table and this really did take a long time. But eventually it was done and it was looking good. After this, I placed a table outside my house and built it. I stacked all my gold bars on top of it and wanted to be the richest man on the island. And I guess I already am because I'm the only one here, but I wanted something to prove it. I wanted to smelt more gold bars, but it was raining, and I knew I was going to run out of sticks. I placed down a bunch of small stick holders on one of my boats before sailing away towards Aeroplane Island. When I did eventually make it to shore, I broke down a couple of large sticks into small sticks before going to bed. Day 98 wasn't the most exciting day in the world, but it was kind of productive. I broke down a bunch of large sticks into small sticks and started putting together the stick holders on my boat. After breaking down even more large sticks into small sticks, eventually I did finish all the stick holders on the boat. Now it was just a matter of filling them all up. I did this practically all day, but the strategy was break down logs into large sticks and break down the large sticks into small sticks. Eventually my boat was filled up and it was real late, so I went to bed. I woke up on day 99 with my boat full of sticks and I was ready to leave the island. So that's what I did. I hopped on my boat and started sailing home. When I did get back, I pushed my boat onto shore and started smelting. When the gold ingots were ready, I put more gold shards in and started smelting again. After this, I stacked all the gold on the gold table. And then I repeated. I took the gold out the furnace, put more gold in the furnace, turned it on, and then stacked up on the table. I eventually ran out of gold shards, so I did some mining by this rock, and then I got straight back to smelting. By the end of the day, the table was full and I was rich. After stacking cheese all day, I went to bed. I soon woke up on the final day, day 100. I took one last look at my house, my beautiful, beautiful house. I said my goodbyes to the coconut table and gold table too. Today really was a sad day. It's the one that marked the end of my journey. I took one final stroll through the garden in my backyard, said bye to my bug box which I filled up in a day, and then took a look at my artifacts that I'd collected over the months. Wilson, I'm gonna miss you. I took one last look at my balcony and the bottled notes I've collected and GPS tags I never figured out how to use. I went to my rooftop garden to take a look at it one more time as well and said goodbye to my other Wilson scarecrow. I took a look at the plane I never managed to finish and then started running towards my tent. I said bye to my home away from home and then took a look at my fishing box too. It was full of rotten fish, but that's okay. I sat down by my campfire and wondered if I'd ever see this place again. I guess only time would tell. I then hopped on one of my boats and started sailing towards Lighthouse Island. When I arrived, I said goodbye to my holiday home and then took one final look at my banana plantation. Daylight come and we wanna go home. I then started sailing towards Aeroplane Island. It got dark during the boat ride over, but soon enough I arrived. I took one last look at my grandiose tower and I went to bed. Ugh, man, I can't sleep. I'm tired, but I can't sleep. I'm so tired of this place, man. Maybe this will help me get to sleep, huh? Let's crack it open. Yeah, it helped a little, I guess, but whatever, I'll just climb up and take a look at the view. Yeah, okay. Bit of a long trek, but okay. It sure is beautiful here, but there's no way off. There's nothing I can do. Why am I even trying? I give up. A big thank you if you made it to the end of the video. This one took me a long time to make, so if anyone did enjoy it and made it to the end, I do appreciate it. Thank you so much. Please like it if you enjoyed it and subscribe if you want. But yeah, thanks for watching the video. It took me a long time to make. I've been sick and moving house and all this jazz, so it's been a bit of a mission to get it out, but finally done. Hooray. Hopefully I'll have another video out by next week, but if not, the week after that. But yeah. If you want to see more 100 days videos, just let me know in the comments and I'll get right on it. But again, they do take a while to make. Yeah, I know I sound like a broken record, but thanks again for watching. And hopefully, I'll see you in the next one. See you later, gamers!